You said it, many Black founders don't get the funding that our counterparts who are white get, right? And so there was a period where I realized after just, running into the same wall over and over again, that in order for me to be successful, and large in part for a lot of Black founders to be successful, we can't follow the route that they teach you in MBA school.
So I'm super interested in your response to this. Talk about the future of retail. What does it look like in a tail end of COVID world, and COVID world? Because I always think about like Minority Report. You go into the store and they know what jeans you bought last, and they start recommending you stuff based on that, and your favorite song starts playing in the whole thing. Talk to me about the future of retail.
Yeah, the future of retail. A couple things that jump out when you hear, but when I'm asked about the future of retail, is headless commerce. Retailers want freedom. Retailers want flexibility. They want the ability to say, "Hey, I'm with Shopify one day, but Shopify isn't allowing me to service my customers in this way using this third-party integration partner. So let me go to BigCommerce." And they want minimal to zero lag time, downtime. So they want their site to be able to, they want to be able to continue to transact with their customers. They want to be able to leverage the data and own their customer data. And technologies like Sandbox Commerce allow for growing brands and retailers to do that in the same way that large brands and retailers that you might find in Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, and the such and the like. So yeah, that's the future of retail. As a broad answer, but we can dive a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
deeper
yeah,
with
and
it.
we'll go deeper because I think so much about transactions is one thing. So if you've got the Shopify account, you've got WooCommerce popping, or you're using any of these platforms, like getting the transaction done is one thing. But so many of our, particularly specifically Black entrepreneurs, those startups, they're shipping from their living room. They're printing UPS labels and boxing up out of their
Yes.
garage. So when
Yes.
you think about the transactions being in one bucket, how do we also manage our deliverables? Because okay, you got my money now. I want to know where my stuff is at.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, tools like ShipStation, Shipping Easy, a couple of these, both of these are fulfillment solutions that really enhance the fulfillment process, allowing you to really um, uh, more control over the fulfillment process. Tools like Sandbox Commerce, again, allowing you to inform customers about using push notifications about the status of the product that you shipped from your new mobile app that would have cost you $100,000 to build last year, but you're paying $100 a month to build a mobile app using our technology. And solutions like that really democratize access to technology like ours for people who are, frankly, shipping products from their living room.
I kind of imagine what your answer might be to this, but I'm interested in like the inception of the idea here because so many Black businesses get left behind technologically just because we can't keep up. We
Right.
talk about the funding that goes to Black-owned businesses, huge disparity there,
Right.
and then you think about it, there was an SBA study that came out. I think there's the last time they did it was like 2013, and it said 80% of Black-owned businesses and ethnic minority-owned businesses are in the bottom 20% of industries for revenue. So we over-index on like dry cleaners and lawn care services and car washes and et cetera. The our 80% of our businesses are in these bottom 20% of categories for sales revenue. Talk about like the mission, like what was the idea? Because I imagine what the mission was is to help us do better business. But like what
Right.
happened that you said, this is a problem I want to help solve to help, give some balance to Black owned businesses.
Right. And that's a great question. I'll tell you, I went from being a software engineer at Walmart, was my first job out of school. Lockheed Martin, living in Doha, Qatar, was my second job out of school, and then Booz Allen Hamilton in DC. And for each of those companies, there were a lot of things a lot of um, a lot of shared attributes that I picked up along the way that helped inform my decision to start Sandbox Commerce. Uh, Before, the bridge between corporate, working as an engineer, individual contributor at those companies, to starting Sandbox Commerce included a step in between where I started my first company, an agency called Launch Partner. And Launch Partner, the motto there still is, if it takes longer than 8 weeks to build, it's probably not an MVP. And so today we've, I think, built 85 MVPs, and they're still cooking. I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day, but I'm a whole owner of the company. Super excited about that. Whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But in my experience building and growing Launch Partner, one of the first things that I noticed that I needed was a team. And I think one of the answers to that question is that a lot of Black-owned businesses, in many cases, not speaking, I don't want to speak too broadly, but they lack a team. You got to build coalitions. You got to be able to convince people that, you know, you want to solve a bigger problem than yourself. And I think that's number one. But where I learned that we may be onto something bigger, there may be a big opportunity in helping early stage and growing brands and retailers build mobile apps using technology, was when we were approached by not just one, but multiple, diverse-led retailers expressing interest in building a mobile app for their brand. And at Launch Partner, wearing my consultant hat and really kind of, it would cost them upwards of $50,000 and usually on average around $120,000 to launch a mobile app. And in 2021, that sounds foolish, because there should be technology that allows, a growing aspirational, brand and retailer to operate and take advantage of data, take advantage of push notifications, take advantage of curbside pickup technology that the larger brands are crushing it with. They should be able to do that as well. And so enter Sandbox Commerce. It started this really ugly, really clunky, embarrassing, really, no code mobile app builder. Before no code was a hashtag, before headless commerce was a hashtag. We started, we built out an MVP. I think it was 10 weeks, if I'm being honest. We built out something that demonstrated the capability. And ever since then have just been iterating on that. And so the inception was, we started Sandbox to help democratize access. You've heard that a lot, but it's true. Access to the technology that helps retailers, specifically for this conversation, diverse-led founders, Black founders, reach their audience and actually provide a lot of the services that larger brands and retailers leverage.
Yeah, you touched on a few things that I want to come back to, but I want to continue setting the stage here because the story is so interesting. And, you talked about democratizing, the competitive landscape for retail, right? For ethnic led, Black led, companies and retailers. Certainly. But there's also, in your startup story, like what plays out in so many Black led companies, like a funding issue with just trying to get going yourself. So you've got this great product, but how do you get it capitalized to get to market? And so let's talk about, just because I want to jump on this before we get too far into the Sandbox, let's talk about Black Freelancer, because you took your skills and said, you know what, I'm building this startup. Let me go hustle my skills elsewhere to continue paying for this startup. Let's talk about that.
Come on. Yeah. If I told you that I had 5 jobs, do you think I was telling the truth or lying?
5 job. Right,
and it's not even fake. It's real. Effectively, there was a point along this journey, and shout out to my day ones. We have some awesome day one investors. I don't want to call them out because they may get blown up, but there are people who get it and who saw the vision early on. A very diverse collection of former founders and industry experts who are like, oh, this guy building this company, we want in. And shout out to all those people that came in early. And so we raised an angel round, just over 700,000, not including what I put in myself. And it didn't happen. The problem is for many diverse founders, that 700,000 doesn't come in right away. That 700,000 came over a period of 3 to 4 years. And when you think about raising funding and you think about piecing together, $700,000 and you're getting $65,000 or $80,000 in a year, it feels more like a salary more than an investment in the company. But again, not discounting those investments. But in order to really swing for the fences, you have to be like our competitor, who in half that time raised $20 million
Wow.
with showing a lot less. And so you said it, many Black founders don't get the funding that our counterparts who are white get, right? And so there was a period where I realized, after just running into the same wall over and over again, that in order for me to be successful, and large in part for a lot of Black founders to be successful, we can't follow the route that they teach you in MBA school or in Techstars or some of the other accelerators that say, oh, if you just call 100 people, a certain percent of those people will write checks, and if you write your pitch deck in this specific manner, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Most of my peers who I break bread with multiple times a week, we talk about this. They all agree that we have to take a non-conventional approach to fundraising, whether that's making more phone calls or writing memorandums. I know that a lot of my peers have done that, which is a very kind of bleeding edge approach to fundraising today. For me, I found that after speaking to the next level of investors, these institutional investors that said no to me with more traction, more revenue, more experience, and then said yes with $20 million in funding to my competitor, I said, okay, we got to do something different. So what did I do? I created an Upwork account and I started freelancing. And within 12 months, I'm not going to put it on the record what kind of monthly income I was pulling in toward the end of 2020, just into this last year, because I started sterlingsmith.dev is my website, where I basically highlighted what I'm good at as an engineer and had a call to action. If you want to work with me, visit sterlingsmith.dev and you can work with me. And over time, I created an Upwork account that I initially had to use a white person's photograph to start winning bids.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And then they made me eventually validate my ID using a picture, et cetera. But by that point, I had 5 stars and was doing 5 figures a month in side projects. And some of them were fractional CTO roles, others were engineering roles. But toward the end of last year, closed out the end of last year with working actively on about 6 projects, all in the tech space, and ended up going on full time with a company that said, Sterling, we just want you to keep doing what you're doing. You can keep your job for the time being. You can here's 1% of here's an equity in the company, and here's unlimited vacation while you continue to work deliver with this company. But between that and the other businesses that I own, literally at one point in time was working on 5 projects at once. And so that's what it's taken to really fund the company. So enter Black freelancer, to your point, enter Black freelancer. I said, hey, why aren't more diverse founders doing this? Because there is a way to self-fund your business when you are faced with the reality, like I was and many of my peers are, that the funding is either going to come, it's going to take a lot longer to get it, or it's not going to come at all in some cases. So do for self, and let's go out there and get it ourselves, and let's break bread with each other. And so that's where Black Freelancer started, and it's a project that really encourages it's Upwork for Black freelancers. Many people that I've worked with over the last year and along the way have said, where can I find more Black freelancers? We want diverse teams, but they don't really want diverse teams. Well, if you're really looking for diverse teams, remember blackfreelancer.com. You can go and you can choose from a list of over 1,200 Black freelancers across the spectrum. And that's only been for the past 3 months that the beta's been live. So that's where Black Freelancer came about.
Yeah. So I hear you saying, you had better technology than your counterpart who raised, 20 times, essentially what you were able to raise, 20 times plus. I mean, it's more than that.
Yep.
But tech's supposed to be a meritocracy. Silicon Valley's supposed to be a meritocracy. No?
Right.
What is it? What's happening here?
No, I'm with you. No, so I'm gonna bite. The reality is that I in the earliest stages, my competitor raised $2 or $3 million without a product to show.
Wow.
So and we had a product to show. Again, we were running about 6 months earlier than them. They came about, they rolled out. And by the way, the CEO of that company signed up for my product to snoop around before he even wrote anything.
Wow.
And we knew it. And I called him up, and because I was like, this is kind of fishy. And those are the days where I was calling every new customer. And I called him up, and he told me his name, and I found out who he was, and I was like, okay, well, let's just continue to do what we're doing. Of course, we locked it down and restricted things more after that. But the long story short is that this game's not fair. It's not going to be fair. That can't be a reason why we don't succeed. So Silicon Valley is definitely not a meritocracy. I think it's safe to say that.
So I want to talk about low code and no code. So let's start with no code first.
Right.
You hear this phrase, this hashtag, no code, and which is effectively saying to folks, you can build an app, get in the App Store, get in iTunes, the App Store, get in Google Play, wherever, and not have to write code. Is it really do I still have to know CSS? Do I still have to know HTML? Or is it really dragging around buttons and dropping them into where you want them?
Great. No, that's a great question. And the short answer is, with Sandbox Commerce, it is a no code solution. No code, which means that you can sign up and drag and drop your way to building an app that's launched to both app stores. And you can build out that app using our interface within 30 minutes. Usually it takes about a week or two for the app stores to approve it, but you're not doing that. Our client success team at Sandbox Commerce is doing that. Now, using tools like Webflow and Bubble, and there are a handful of others that are crushing it right now. I think Webflow is on track to be $1 billion company if it's not already. Now, they're, in my opinion, considered low code solutions. So there's a degree of dragging and dropping, but to really fine tune the solution, you'll need to know a little bit of CSS and JavaScript or JavaScript. But one thing that I can that I admire about Webflow is that what also makes them successful for less technical users of the platform is they have a ridiculously rich resource library of videos, and I think they have something called Webflow universities, to where if you're non-technical even, and you're trying, you have the time and energy to spin up on, without having a computer science degree, you can modify the user experience by using the resources they have. And frankly, that's where we want to be, and that's where we plan on being with Sandbox Commerce. But low code and no code, the difference is that with no code, the promise is you can build complex technology without writing a line of code. Check out Sandbox Commerce if you're a retailer that uses Sandbox, Shopify or BigCommerce. You can prove me wrong if you like. But Webflow is a tool. It's a low code solution that allows you to do that as well.
So you've got retailers with physical locations who've had to iterate to years ago, let's say a decade ago, to build websites, or maybe 2 decades ago now to build websites. And then they had to have an app. And now you've got social. And now you've got people selling directly via Instagram. I just want to run my business. I just want to sell my t-shirts. I just want to sell,
Right.
my eyelashes, whatever you like. I just want to sell my stuff. Like, where should I be focusing my attention if I don't want to find the next, flapping bird and say, this is the next thing. Now I got to go do that. Because you just told me
Right.
a year ago I had to have an app. Now you're
Right.
telling me I got to have my Instagram store popping.
Yes. So, I think that you start with the fundamentals. You start, where you are, and you look at the resources to include time that you have at your disposal, and you do the best that you can at that. And then you measure everything. You measure engagement, you measure responses, you measure sales. Sandbox Commerce, we have a tool in beta right now called Sandbox Social to help bring your shoppable Instagram outside of Instagram and incorporate tagged images in blog posts and things like that. That is for the more advanced and kind of the more mature business or influencer. You know, if you're looking to sell t-shirts or hats, you should, I would advocate first that you use a tool like Shopify or BigCommerce to build out a website, because you really need to have a website so that you're not getting taken advantage of by the fees that tools like Amazon might charge, right? So I would start with a website, and I would make that the best representation of what you're selling. And then once you are firmly established and you've proven out the potential of the website, then you begin to keep your head on the swivel and look at other opportunities to, double down. But it doesn't need to be that complicated as far as, doing everything at once. Now, when it's time to build an app, you should certainly look at Sandbox Commerce, because you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of money, and you're also going to keep the money in the community. And so for all these reasons, it's a no-brainer to use Sandbox Commerce. And there are other tools. I can provide you with a list offline, Will, of tools that you may want to also keep in mind to share with you some of your guests later on future episodes.
Well, let's do that now, because I wanted to talk about, like, what are some, if let's say I don't want to be the biggest, I don't want to be an engineer, but I want to learn how to run my retail store better, right? And so, other than Sandbox, which we are getting educated on here, what are some other tools, softwares, and other things that you know about, particularly black owned? If you got Upsy, which I'll go ahead and throw in there.
Shout out
Yeah,
Upsy.
shout out to Upsy.
Shout out Clarence over there,
Yes,
Upsy, for
yes.
real. Like, yes,
So you've got
big
that.
wins.
Let's talk about other tools that help me as a black owned entrepreneur running a lifestyle company. Maybe I'm running a barbershop, or, I've got my t-shirt, business popping. What are some other tools I need to be aware of to help me scale my operation and run it more efficiently likewise?
Yes. And I'm just pulling up a few, but yeah, so there is Klaviyo. Now, Klaviyo is not black owned, but in my opinion, it's one of the best tools to help you prioritize engagement with your brand. And so I would certainly say that Klaviyo is a tool when it comes to, email marketing and sending and engaging with the shoppers that are engaging with your brand. I would certainly say that you look at Klaviyo. The Now List, which was recently acquired by Revolt Media, one of P. Diddy's companies. They were. I don't know the name of the new company that bought them, but Khadijah over there is pure gold, and she's innovative and apparently got the attention of Revolt and Puff Daddy. So she's got, she's smarter than me as far as that's concerned. But I would definitely say that the Now List is, if you want to list your product and be included in a list of products that is being exposed to other people who are conscious and want to keep the money in the community, I would certainly suggest that you list your product in the Now List, because it's an instant. It's instant eyeballs and instant attention to what you're up to.
And just so people
Now,
understand, because just for clarity, it's the Nile List, Nile, because it sounds like we're saying
LE.
now. So that's want to make people know it's the Nile,
That's correct.
Nile list.
Yes, it is the Nile List, and the name of the acquiring company is called Shop Circulate. And so
That's
check
Diddy's
them out
company.
on Instagram.
Yeah, that's Diddy's.
That's Diddy. There you are. And so, any connects there would be welcome. But I definitely think that's another company that you should be looking at listing your products in. Other tools, a competitor to Klaviyo is going to be MailChimp. I would consider Klaviyo, MailChimp. Now, we talked about shoppable Instagram. If you want to sell products, if you're a retailer, you want to sell products, obviously the first choice and the ideal location that customers purchase your product from is your webpage or your mobile app, because you retain as much of the profit from the sale if they're shopping on your property. But you should also highlight products on shoppable Instagram. You can tag images so that people can purchase a product while they're shopping their grid. I think that's important. And there's Google Analytics, and I can talk all day about different types of integration partners that growing retailers should use, but those are the first that come to mind.
And so obviously COVID has had a really big impact on e-commerce and retail as a whole. E-commerce being a section of e-commerce, a sector of it, I should say. What trends have you noticed are changed forever because of COVID, and ones that particularly Black entrepreneurs who are working to sell online can get positioned for if they haven't already missed the boat? Like, what can we do to take advantage of this moment?
So that's a good question. Prior to COVID, there was like a slow trend toward shopping and engagement on mobile phones, and frankly, toward the toward the inception, the beginning, the early days of Sandbox, um, the need for a mobile app for retailers was not as pronounced. I remember talking to early investors, and they're like, well, "Why do retailers need mobile apps?" And that was a cool thing to say in a meeting. Like that was like they'd laugh at me in meetings, say retailers don't need mobile apps, and I would point to trends that showed that um, the percentage of Google Analytics traffic what for retailers was increasing month over month and year over year in the browser, and in some time in the not too distant future, retailers would see and notice that they needed to provide better services and more optimized mobile solutions for consumers to shop on devices. And then came COVID. And I'll say, and I think that all of my peers in the space who have built and are growing technology platforms that are used by retailers can attest to this as well, that retailers will acknowledge today that they need mobile applications in order to be successful. And the percentage of retailers that say they need mobile applications has accelerated over more than 10 years over the last 1 year.
Wow.
That's so. Every retailer at the beginning of COVID, every retailer expressed the need to having a mobile application to either help with curbside pickup, which we've revolutionized, as I mentioned earlier, or to help with providing, delivery, and engaging with customers at a safe distance. And in the future, what we learned is that consumers have also gotten used to using technologies to transact even more so. Like I'll tell you, I use my Apple Watch almost exclusively to make a purchase when I go to a coffee shop or, even, a Lululemon or that type of store. I use my Apple Watch. I don't hand over my credit card anymore. These are trends that will never change. And I think that things like that you'll see that more information will be released, I think, toward the end of the year, kind of capturing some of the data that we've learned about the trends that are occurring in the industry. But I think that a preference to using technology to transact will be one of the things that bears out.
So I love that you brought up that all these retailers are saying or experts, quote unquote, were saying retailers don't need apps, which you've obviously found to not be the case. They do need apps.
Right.
So now you've got us with apps. You got Will Lucas's app, for Will Lucas t-shirts, right?
Right.
How I get people to download this app now? Because there's so many people who have apps, particularly retailers, who've spent a bunch of money probably not using your stuff, not using Sandbox, which they should have used, but spend a bunch of money getting these apps done. But now they got to get the word out about go download my app. So how does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I would you should look at some of our customers: Shift Style House, black-owned female brand; Her Treasure boutique out of Atlanta, black female, uh, awesome brand that's leveraging Sandbox Commerce to promote their app. They're going to have, I think, more accurate, real time and first person type of feedback to support you to share with you. But based on from the app uh, platform provider's perspective, here's what I'll say to that. A if you're just selling T-shirts, then at that stage, I would not necessarily have an app
Shoot.
to sell
So I
T-shirts.
don't need Will
Okay,
Lucas t-shirt
so
app. Doggone it.
yeah, no. So hate to bust your bubble there,
All
but
right, all
I
right.
think that there will be a point in which, once you have an apparel line, you
Okay.
need a mobile application, right?
All right.
So I think that right sizing the problem with the particular audience is going to be important. I don't think that everyone needs a mobile app, but I think that perhaps Will Lucas, Black Tech Green Money, we can work together
Hey,
to expand the product line, and we can get a mobile app for you.
we can do that.
But what I'll say is that even once you have the mobile app is not meant for everyone. Like, we're not building mobile apps for every one of your customers to use. What I'll say to that is that we're building mobile apps for the 20% of your customers that generate the 80% of your revenue.
Mm.
Those customer loyalists. In other words, our mobile apps are not for the window shopper. They're not for the person that's walking down the mall, isn't really into the brand, or doesn't know who willlucas.com, shopwilllucas.com is. It's for the people that cut for you. They know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
They know when your new products are launching, and they want to be the first to get it, right? And typically that's your most loyal customer that's spending the most money with you. That's who the mobile apps are for. And so it's really knowing who your audience is, and then catering to your audience and providing them with the easiest way to transact with you.
Legit. I love that. I love that answer. It's for the 20% who generate 80% of the revenue. It's not for the win. I love that answer. And it's
Right.
it's willlucas.co, by the way, for anybody trying to find me on willlucas.com.
Oh, well, okay.
That's that is,
Okay. Well, we can set up the shop. We can set
hey,
up that shop subdomain,
hey.
shop.willlucas.co.eth, so you can start accepting that
Oh,
Ethereum as
you're gonna
well.
have me. I'm gonna have you another episode. We gotta talk about this. We have to talk about transacting it with crypto. So, you
Oh,
just gave me an
yeah.
idea. Okay. All right, we'll have you back. We'll have you
Yeah.
back.
You can add, hold on, pause. You can ask Harold. Harold and I both have our names.eth.
I
Just so
dig
you
it.
know. So if you want to send us some ether right now, you can go ahead and do that to
I
sterlingsmith.eth.
I
Yes.
dig it. All right, so I want to end here because you did touch on this, and I think this is so important for the time that we live in, and it's data. All right, and we too often don't, particularly black business, not all of us writ large, but too many of us who are in business don't know enough about the metrics of our business, our customer profiles, those metrics, those key performance indicators. We don't know enough. We don't know how to pull that data out of our transactions and our business operations, and we don't know enough about our customers. So those people who do pull the trigger on the shop, on the buy button, we don't know enough. Too many of us. What are some simple things we can do? So if you were to give homework today, what would you say everybody with an e-commerce, a web store, what are some easy things they can do to start to understand, start to gather that data and to
Sure.
help translate that data?
Yes. Okay, let's go. So I would start with ensuring you have Google Analytics
Which is
installed
free.
on your e-commerce store. It's
It's
free.
free.
And it's low code. You just need to copy and paste this snippet into your Shopify or BigCommerce backend. If you go to Google, when you set up Google Analytics, they will provide you with a snippet to copy and paste. And what that does is it anonymously tracks each of the users that is traversing your website. Um, from there, I would install another snippet, a tool called Hotjar. And what Hotjar does is it allows you to it effectively records a video of how customers engage with your website, allowing you to see specifically what they look at, how much time they spent on every page of your website, what they're passing by, what they're focusing on. And it shows like a tracing image or line of the customer's journey and provides some more anonymous data about the customer. And then I would look at potentially using a tool like Intercom to track user information. Intercom is a tool that lets you actually install a chat bubble that captures lead data and user data so that you can not only know who your customers are, but engage with them in real time on your website. Once you scale up and you feel like you've got your legs underneath you from a web standpoint, I would ultimately install Sandbox Commerce. I'll tell you why. I'm going full circle with this, because the larger brands and retailers learned this a long time ago. But what Sandbox Commerce is really doing for growing brands and retailers is helping them better understand who their customers are and allowing them to more strategically engage with their shoppers. So it's a little known fact that a customer who engages with a brand on a mobile phone using a mobile app shares more data with the retailer than if the customer actually went to the physical store to shop. There are so many attributes that are shared, everything from your location, your demographic, your name, what you looked at, what you have in your shopping cart, and being able to tie all that data together so that the brand and retailer, you as the shop owner, can correlate that information and engage with the shopper in a manner that you are actually adding value to the shopping experience is invaluable and ultimately will lead to increased revenue. And so that is the answer in a nutshell.